Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing this morning? It is the 3rd of February, 2020, and welcome to the Hollywood After Dark podcast. I know it's early. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning is when this particular episode is going to go live. And I wanted to take a few minutes and talk about this, what I plan on doing, and why it's happening the way that it's happening. So first things first, let me just point this out. Let me just say this. Let me just get this off my chest. Thank you. That's what I want to say first and foremost. Without you guys who watch this channel on the regular, you guys don't know how much you have helped my life. And I mean that in the most absolute sincere way, because I love talking movies. I love talking entertainment. I love doing all of these things. And I keep trying to find a way to find my place here in the YouTube commentary space, right? I keep trying to find where I best suit or where I best fit in and things along those lines. And one of the things I've noticed is I do really well in more of a long form chatty type approach, right? I'm not very big on the editing, and that has a lot to do with just I'm impatient. I'm very impatient in a number of ways. I can edit, but I get bored by it pretty easily. My mind is always moving, is jumping from one topic to another, and that is something I just want to lean into. I figure it's the best way for me to continue doing what I'm doing. It's the best way for me to approach what I do from the perspective of being the happiest in how I do it. And that is what this whole thing is about. So why, you might be asking yourself, am I doing a video premiere instead of just going live at 8 o'clock in the morning? Because right now it's about 12:45 a.m. The night of, or at least the night before. And the answer to that is I have two children. One is 2 years, one is 6 months. And during the daytime, I'm their primary care provider. Now, I spend the vast majority of my day with them, and I don't get the chance to work on anything really until about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And I have other things I have to do in the evening that ultimately end up taking up the vast majority of my time. So if you're wondering why for a while I was hosting live streams at 11 p.m. or 12 p.m., it's because of that. And that becomes a bit daunting after a while. Doing a 2-hour live stream at night, still getting up early in the morning, it just starts taking its toll. So I can't do that. But I can sit here and I can pre-record things, get to it when I need to get to it, figure out how I want to do it, and go from there. And so I've been thinking about this over the course of today. And actually, for the last while, I've been thinking about it quite a bit. And that's is why I want Hollywood After Dark to be. If I'm going to quote Bernie Sanders, right, I'm just going to say, not me, us. My goal, my intent is to eventually turn this into something that I can do live at 8 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday. It's just going to take a bit of time to get there. And that is not only building up the audience to make sure this is something that the audience actually likes, and two, to become more financially stable on this channel in order to be able to pull that off. And I'm just being honest. That is exactly where it's at. Doing the individual videos are still going to be coming out in clips because that's just the way to get the most traction on YouTube. That's just 100%. But I still want to build the community, and I still want to make sure that you guys have a voice and that you guys can call in and you guys can leave voicemails and you guys can do all of those things that are going to be a lot of fun and a lot of good ways to engage. And not only do I want to do that, but I want to build off other offshoots, right? I want to do more deep dive in the movies where I would, plan out something and then bring on like another YouTuber or another online commentator for film. And we take a look at a movie, just kind of go through it and just have fun talking about it. I want to do the same thing with not a bunch of TV shows, but definitely a couple TV shows, because I feel, I will say that when I was doing the Mandalorian coverage, the final episode, I did this 2-hour live stream with my friend Louis Lecca, who calls in all the time, talking about the episode, the season finale, bringing up screenshots, discussing it with you guys. And that was so much fun. And I want to keep doing that. But those kind of shows don't pop up all the time. And so building a community around those is going to definitely be something that we're going to have to, see if we can pull that one off. Channel memberships are going to be becoming a thing here on the channel here probably this week. I'm just figuring out how to make that the best it can be, offering the right perks. And of course, there's always going to be the Patreon if you don't want to do that. And there are basically, this is just where it's at. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Up front, everything, this is where it's at. I'm always going to be transparent, let you guys know where things are. I want to turn this into something that I can not only put out as a daily podcast and talk to people who just listen on their way to work, who don't know anything about YouTube, but to then build a community with you guys that goes up pre-John Campea. Not that I'm trying to like steal his thunder. There's no way I could. There's no way I want to. But I also feel like there's a good place to be in the morning that can perhaps offer a bit of an alternative take on a few of the key items that are going around, because John and I differ our opinions in a number of different ways. And I think that would be a good time slot. I don't want to do afterward because a lot of he runs for 2 hours and I don't want to do that. But doing it early enough, I think is going to get the early crowd. And I'm just kind of being transparent. This is where my mind is at. So, yeah, that's kind of where things are at. As always, feedback is going to be appreciated. Feedback is going to definitely be needed and welcome 100%. And so I just kind of wanted to put this out there, and you guys can like it, not like it. That's entirely fine. But I just ask that no matter what, you have a bit of an open mind, and we go from there. Because when things get to a point of where it's far more sustainable, then I can make the easier transition to the morning and work that out. Again, it just requires, unfortunately, it requires more of a sustainable aspect. But that is the absolute truth. Anyway, why don't we dive in to today's topics here? Why don't we dive into what exactly is going on? Because I want to talk today about, quite frankly, Adam Sandler is a big one right off the damn bat. I think Adam Sandler is going to be something that a lot of people are going to be talking about here very soon, because we found out the other day he's doing 4 new movies for Netflix. But did you know how many hours people have actually spent watching Adam Sandler movies? It's what you might call insane if you really start breaking it down. So let's take a look here at this. So it says here, according to Polygon, right? According to Polygon here, Netflix users have spent 2 billion hours watching Adam Sandler. So he's getting think about this. I know I covered this the other day, but I just want to talk about this. Netflix users have spent 2 billion hours watching Adam Sandler. That is wild. And when I covered this the other day, there wasn't any talk about that. There wasn't any talk about how many hours people had spent watching Adam Sandler. I still can't believe 2 billion hours. But it says here, according to a press release, Netflix subscribers have reportedly spent 2 billion hours watching Adam Sandler movies since his first original, The Ridiculous Six, premiered in 2015. And based on new membership viewership metrics, Sandler's most recent film, Murder Mystery, was queued up by 83 million households in the first week of release. If there's such a thing as a movie star in the streaming age, it's apparently Sandler, which is why the company is re-upping its production deal to produce 4 more movies. Think about that. And I mean, really, really effing think about that one. 83 million households queued up Murder Mystery when it premiered a few months ago. 83 million households. That's not even 83 million people, because they probably watched with a few people. I don't think they had like a watch party. I don't think they had like a gigantic, pregame, get together. Like, all right, everyone, let's bring the neighbors over and we're going to have a potluck and we're going to talk about our favorite Adam Sandler film on Netflix. And when the clock strikes midnight and it goes live, we're all going to sit down and watch it together. Like, I don't think that happened. But clearly, Netflix is far more influential than we give it credit for. And I think about that for a second, right? There are, I think, around 165 million Netflix accounts, right, worldwide. And 83 million of them queued this up in the first week. That's like half, a little less than half, maybe, right? Around half. I think we could use it as a solid metric. Half of Netflix's users queued up Murder Mystery, an Adam Sandler movie, in the first week. My mind is breaking thinking about those numbers, because you never actually think about how much Netflix pulls in viewer wise. We never know anything about that. They've tried to argue for a long time. They've tried to argue that a lot of I've seen TV ratings companies come out and attempt to argue that no, really, there's nothing there that really matters. It's the way that they I think it was the guy who runs FX, right? Landgraf, was that his name? He was talking about a reporter asked him a question about Netflix and the viewer rating ship for You, right? That one show about the creepy stalker guy that everyone seems to get off on. And he's talking about how they said like 40 million households watched it or something. And then he's like, well, that means like he's like, all the episodes are out at once. So we don't know how many people actually watched the entire season before the end of the show. I'm like, well, that's actually a pretty fair point. You have no idea to know how many people actually watched it, but he broke it down to like 3 million people per episode or something like that is what he was trying to say. But if you look at the wording there, 83 million households. Now, there is a little bit of kind of wiggle room on the wording, if you want my honest opinion. The wiggle room there has a lot to do with number of screens, right? And how many screens are available in the house. The package I pay for is for 4 simultaneous streams. And so I could be watching it in one room and my girlfriend and my kids could be watching it in another room. And of course, does that count as being a household or screen or whatever? Then the wording is a little bit interesting. I'd love there to be some clarification on it. But I think we also can look at the fact and just go, I don't think like one household was running like 4 simultaneous screens, all watching murder mystery at the same time throughout the course of the first week. We're talking specific households, i.e. one account per household is what they are generally referring to. 83 million people, 2 billion hours watched of Adam Sandler content. That is insane. That is absolutely freaking insane. I am surprised. I am very surprised at that. But I'll tell you what I'm not surprised at. And that, of course, today's Super Bowl commercials. I'm not surprised because I'm not impressed. I don't care about the commercials as a whole anymore. I just really want to see the movie stuff. That's all I really care about. And this time we had a bunch of studios boycott it because they didn't really have anything coming out. I mean, Wonder Woman, you could sit there and say that the Tide ad with her, they clearly just took a shot from Wonder Woman 1984 and then they put Charlie Day as a reverse for a 15-second spot. I mean, that doesn't count. Fast 9 had a 30-second spot that showed off a few more things. They showed off the little thing for No Time to Die, which gave us a couple more scenes and a little bit more intrigue. That was actually okay. The Minions, The Rise of Gru, which I could give a crap about because that I just didn't care for. I don't care for the Despicable Me franchise at all. I didn't like Minions. The only one I really liked was Despicable Me 2, and 3 was okay. I've seen them. And maybe Minions 2 will be better because Minions 1 was pretty bad. But it still grossed $1 billion. So obviously this one's going to pull in $1 billion as well. I don't think that's going to change. I don't think it's going to migrate any differently. I think it's all going to stay the same. So we have that. And then, but the big one of the night was Black Widow, which I thought was boring. If I'm being fair, I thought the Black Widow trailer was boring as sin. And I say that, I say that because when you look at that trailer, it shows you really nothing new. And it really had action in the very beginning of it, and then that was really about it. A couple more scenes with like Helena and Florence Pugh, which that might be Helena, or I forget the name of all the characters, But it was 30 seconds and it was kind of pointless. It was just kind of okay. Like nothing about it got me. Nothing about it wowed me. I will say, though, probably one of the things that wowed me the most, if anything did, would definitely be the big game spot for Marvel here, right? For the Disney Plus, where we gotta see all this stuff, And I think that would be something that ultimately I would like to see more of. Actually, hold on, let me remove that. Let me bring that back up here. Make sure we have sound. We can watch this real quick since Disney's actually okay with you watching their content on the stream, unlike Sony, which is not that at all. So let's take a look here at the 30-second spot to get an idea for what exactly is going to be going on, because this shows us what's coming from Marvel later on this year. This is really later on this year, I think. Well, not entirely, but two of the three are definitely later on this year. But there's one glaring omission that I'm surprised nobody's talking about. But let's take a look here.
It's time.
Wanda, welcome home.
Vision residents.
I'm gonna burn this place to the ground.
And that's it. that is everything. So we can take a quick look here. What I liked was this shot with the shield and the tree. Here's the thing too. You can tell that there's budgets in this. You can tell that they put money into this series, right? They're shooting it right now. This is clearly a very quick teaser that they threw together, and I'm surprised they were able to make it look this good in the process for that 30-second spot. But just seeing Cap shield, it's stuck in the tree. Then of course, Sam here goes and he's like pulling it out, and we see him. This is like the shot right beforehand where he is testing it, where he's trying to learn how to control it. I like that quite a bit. Then we get the shot here of what appears to be, we see him, and then there's that quick shot of him. So we do get more of the Falcon. And I was talking with a viewer today, longtime viewer, and he's like not happy about the show. He doesn't like the show at all. He thinks it's a bad idea to not give us more time with Falcon before making him Captain America. But I mean, obviously there's this shot here where we've got USA Agent and he's got the shield, and this is going to be, you can see like the logo right there of the new Captain America logo, and this is going to be his big reveal that's going to be there and everything else. So we already know this is going to kind of be coming. So I get that entirely. But what I like though is we got the shot here of Bucky. He's got a gun pointed at what appears to be Zemo. We don't quite. Oh no, it is Zemo. The coats match up, but there's a glove there. Look at that glove and the bullets, and we don't know who that is yet. So that should be that should be pretty interesting. I think that's kind of cool. Then of course we got this shot here of Paul Bettany as Vision, which is absolutely awesome. I want to see. Let me back that up. I mean, this is a weird thing when you look at WandaVision and what they're doing with WandaVision and how they're turning it into a sitcom this year. Obviously is more like the Dick Van Dyke Show with the aesthetic on that one. It's very much going to be like a half-hour sitcom. Think of like the shorter episode lengths, like Mandalorian and whatnot, given the budget and everything we see here. But we see like this one here is more of like a sitcom. It's just like a sitcom. But there's also the quick shot of her. It's very, very fast. It's hard to do. Again, we see like the Dick Van Dyke type stuff. Again, like more like a Brady Bunch type aesthetic. You can see the outfit there is more like the 70s. And then Vision Residence, and it's more like the 1950s. So it looks like it's going to be jumping through a bunch, and everything else. Now we got this shot here, and we see the two pacifiers. So obviously they're pulling out the twins. And this looks more like I mean, look at his outfit here, like Vision's outfit. This is like a step-by-step, the Connors or Roseanne or, Family Matters, or any of those sitcoms that are going to have like the parents dealing with two kids. So the question then becomes like, is this all going to be in Wanda's mind, or is this going to manifest itself in some fashion that's going to be used in the future? And again, this is the twins right here, the dual cradles, the pacifiers. People are losing their minds over this. They're loving it so much. So that should be really interesting to see what's going to happen with that in the future. Then we've got just the Loki bit right here, where it's just him in TW or TX. I'm not too sure what the uniform there is, but it does look like a prison uniform. And he is captured somewhere and has to break himself out. So that should be a fair amount of fun to see Loki kind of being Loki again. It's been a long time since we've gotten evil Loki, and that's either going to be real good or real bad. I don't quite know yet, if I'm being fair. I don't quite know yet. And that's really about it. That's just the Disney Plus. Now, here's the glaring omission. Where is What If? Where is What If? Now, I know that they were showing off 3 shows in 30 seconds and they had to cut it down real tight. I get that. I understand that completely. But what I am not a giant fan of is the fact that it does come across like they very much don't, that they cut that part out of it. But it's like, where is What If? We haven't seen an update on that in quite some time. There's been like a little trailer that's come out, a little thing that's come out. We know a little bit about it, but that's about it. So I'd really love it if they were able to give us something that was a bit more interesting, that was a bit more intriguing on that front. But otherwise, showing us, Loki, just that little shot there, obviously is going to get people hyped up. The WandaVision stuff looks pretty wild, and I like the different aesthetics that it's kind of going from 1950s to 1970s to 1990s in the sitcom era. And that should be pretty interesting to see how that all plays out over the span of 6 half-hour episodes. And of course, what I'm interested in the most is Falcon and Winter Soldier, because I love those characters and I want to see that type of story continue. And I think that's the one that's going to have probably the most intrigue and probably the highest budget so far. So that should be a lot of fun. But otherwise, there wasn't a lot coming out of the Super Bowl commercial-wise that I felt that was great, which is a bit of a downside simply because, you'd like there to be more. But I think, honestly, these studios, they realize that putting money in traditional advertising is just not as worth it anymore. They could just release the trailers online and people would flock to it right now if there's something new to watch, So it is what it is, but I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this one. How did you feel about the trailers? Definitely let me know that down in the comment section. I want to know more about that one. So another thing I want to talk about is going to be actually an issue with Watchmen. I'm getting a little bit, I don't want to say perturbed, but I'm curious to know what in the hell is going on with Watchmen Season 2. Now, if you've been following the show and you are one of the people who like the show, you probably want there to be a second season. I want there to be a second season. I thought the show was fantastic. But we've known from the get-go that Damon Lindelof wanted to tell 9 episodes. He wanted to do a 9-part story, and that was it. That's the story he wanted to tell. HBO was down with it. I don't think they were expecting it to be as popular as it was. And it was. Don't let any naysayer out there tell you any differently. Don't let anyone who runs another YouTube channel where they're trying to hate on every single thing that potentially has diversity in it, letting you know that it has anything less to do than being stellar. It was, it was popular. It had 1.6 million people watching it, their Nielsen ratings, but then they had over 7 million coming in through VOD. And just as a quick side note to that, there's the last time I brought this up, somebody had said, well, I want to see like a third party. You can't get a third party. I understand that you may not want to trust HBO. I get that. Fine, whatever. But there's literally no other data. And HBO is not going to risk at all lying to their shareholders about how many people have tuned in to watch Watchmen over the span of the week through VOD. We're no longer living in the age where Nielsen ratings mean a goddamn, not at all. And the Watchmen was one of the ones that was able to pick up a lot more viewers during the week, which is why we keep hearing about it, because I think HBO very much is trying to use public pressure to bring Damon Lindelof back. This article popped up today on the Deadline. Well, actually, it popped up yesterday. It says here, even though HBO would love a second season of Watchmen, creator Damon Lindelof told us tonight that he's not currently cooking up a continuation up. He's completely open to the possibility of someone else taking a crack at Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons' DC comic book, saying, I never want to close the door completely, because if 2 or 3 years from now I say, I just had another idea, it will be that much harder to open. But I would say it's barely ajar. I think that there are no current plans to make any more Watchmen. If the idea comes, I would be enthusiastic about it. The idea may not come from me. I would be super excited about it coming from somebody else. So my position hasn't changed. And this is what he'll be getting asked probably until the end of time. Fans liked it. People liked it. They want to see more. Now, I do think that to an extent, Lindelof is I think he's waiting to see what the fan reaction is, if they want more, and whether or not he can use it to kind of negotiate with HBO about potentially a bigger paycheck. Now, according to Casey Bloys, he does say here, this is from back in January, says it really is up to Damon at this point. He is thinking about what he wants to do. Truly, I don't know at this point whether it is a returning drama series or a limited series. I think one of the things Damon did so brilliantly was leave it open, or he opened up this entire world. So maybe there's another version with a whole set of new characters. I don't know, because Damon doesn't know, and I'm taking his lead on this. And he says, if we get a season 2, that'd be great. If it's a new take on the world, great. If it's something else completely, I'm just going to take his lead. Now, and here's the thing. It won Best New Series at the WGAs tonight. So at the Writers Guild of America, it won Best New Series. Granted, it didn't get any Emmy nominations or Golden Globe nominations or anything else. But, winning at the WGAs is no real small feat. Let's be fair here. It's no real small feat. That is something that, again, these shows thrive off of. These channels, these networks, Netflix especially, they thrive on all of this. They want it all. They want it. They're like the Queen soundtrack from Highlander. They want it all. They want the awards. They want the recognition. This is always about recognition. It doesn't matter. I mean, you and I don't care about what the Writers Guild of America says about Watchmen, right? I want to eventually one day join the Writers Guild, and I don't even care about that. So you've got the situation where, they keep bringing it up, and he's not going to leave the door, completely shut, because he wants to come back to it. And I do think it has a lot to do with wanting to get a bigger paycheck. I wouldn't say more control, but I would say maybe more of a guarantee, right? Because you got to go back and look at his previous efforts with HBO. Leftover season 1 wasn't well received. He retooled it, brought it back for season 2, and season 2 and season 3 apparently were really good. I haven't seen it yet, but that's what that's what I hear. And then he did this 9 episodes and he's done. But is a storyteller like him who worked on Lost ever really done? You're telling me that during the post-production sequence, or even hell, the script writing process, or everything else that was going on with the show, getting it shot, getting it out there, he didn't start thinking of ways to continue on the story, ways to bring back these characters? I mean, come on. Every writer does it. During the production of Joker, Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips were talking about potential ideas for a sequel. While you're in it, while you're literally balls deep in it, you start thinking about the future. It's inevitable. It's always inevitable. You always think about the future. You're always thinking about what to do next. And when you're in that kind of creative bubble, when you're in that kind of creative world and that environment, that's exactly what you're going to be doing. So I think that this has more to do with him wanting to negotiate with HBO for a bigger paycheck. And at this point, with the HBO Max coming down the pipeline, with AT&T getting ready to work with HBO to greenlight a hell of a lot of shows that are going to go to that streaming service, it seems that it would make a lot of sense to push something for HBO Max, or to open up a broader deal, a broader first look deal, right? Like, oh, you want more Watchmen? People really liked it. You can make a lot of money off of it. Well, I want to have, a production deal. I want to have this kind of deal. And then they're going to probably work on that one. This to me just kind of reeks like, old school Hollywood politics and how they negotiate via the press. That's what it feels like. Of course, it comes across as amicable. Of course, it comes across as they both love each other and they both thought they did a great job. And of course, they want to work together again in the future, but nothing's concrete. A storyteller likes to tell stories, like an actor likes to act. So yeah, no, there's definitely more that Damon Lindelof wants to say on that one. And I think he's itching at the bits to get back to it, but he just wants to make sure that there's a lot more money at play, probably, than not. And that's, of course, perfectly fine. So finally, there's something that came up today. There's something that came up today over on Reddit talking about the rise of Skywalker. Now, the movie's been out for a month and a half. It's apparently about ready to hit a massive 50-day decline, like the worst ever, according to Forbes, if you want to believe that. I don't know. The movie made $1 billion, way off mark from what I predicted. And I get that. But there's one element of it that there's a lot of problems with the movie. As much as a fan as I am, I can see there's lots of problems. And it's one of those things where there's a lot of coverage about the making of the movie, a lot of coverage about the production of the film and what went wrong and how it went wrong and when it went wrong. Well, we got a little bit of insight into that today, and it's very brief, but it's also very telling. And this comes to us from Pablo Hidalgo, who has a protected Twitter account, who says, "Keep a secret. It was the first act of 9 that changed most during post, not the last. Don't tell the Raylos." Now, he does have a protected Twitter account, and that's because a lot of people out there, especially in the fandom menace, do not like Pablo Hidalgo. They think that he's a jerk, and they think that he's a bad guy, and they think that he's an SJW, and they don't like him. But this guy's job as a Lucasfilm employee, as part of the story group, is to basically kind of work that collective narrative, right? His job is to kind of forge the path and make sure it all kind of ties together. And that's what he does. So he's saying here, the first act of 9 is what changed the most during post, not the last. And you know what? I've seen the movie 3 times now, and I can tell you the first act is an absolute mess. One of the biggest criticisms about the first act of that movie is that it flies at breakneck speed. And I'm not just talking the light speed skipping. It flies so fast, you don't have time to breathe. It took me my third viewing to really kind of catch some of the things on the side and kind of like breathe in the environment, to live and experience in that environment, because it was happening so fast. And I'm still trying to figure out why. Now, or where specifically. Now, we know from the Jedi Paxis leaks that there were a whole thing with Kylo on Mustafar, and he was just cutting his way through Vader worshippers on Mustafar, and that was what we saw in the very beginning of the movie, post the opening scroll. He fought all those people, and then he found the waypoint, and he went off to Exegol. It happened so fast, it made no sense. It was very, very confusing. And I'm assuming that has a lot to do with the fact that they cut out that whole scene. Well, we know they cut out that whole scene. They cut out any kind of exposition because they just wanted to get straight to Palpatine. They wanted to get Snoke out of the way. They wanted to introduce Palpatine, and they wanted to set up that whole thing. That's one of the reasons why they released that 1.5-minute section online days before the film came out. They gave you the first couple minutes of the movie, basically, outside of the opening crawl and the Mustafar shit. Outside of that, it was they gave you the first 1.5 minutes. Like, they just spoiled this massive thing in the very beginning of the movie for like, I think it was because they wanted to just dispel that myth, and they wanted to make sure that it was out there and people knew about it going into it, so they didn't feel blindsided by it. Or maybe it happened so fast because of all the tinkering that happened with the first act during post, that they felt that they had to, in order to give people that information, so they would have that on their mind going in. Because in storytelling, especially movie making, if you know that there's some backstory going into it, it does help in certain scenes that the average person who is unaware of anything may not have any of that. So this is what we know. But the whole thing of don't telling the Reylos, that's a little like, what was the point of that? Did they think that right. If I recall, because Reylos be cray-cray. That's essentially what's going on. Reylos be nuts. They have sent death threats to JJ, death threats to Kathy, death threats to a lot of people. They cray. But my question then becomes, are they still upset about? I know a lot of them are upset about the way it ends, right? They're just like, why didn't Rey die and Ben live? Why didn't they get together? Why didn't they bump pelvises and have children? They're the Reylos. They obsessive compulsive comes to mind when you're talking about some aspects of that. But the Reylos out there, and I don't really have a problem with the Reylos. I actually really enjoyed the kiss at the end of the movie. I did. I really liked it. And it made sense that he had to die. But then again, the final act of that movie, to me, knew what it was doing. It did what it needed to do in the final act of that movie. But the first act of that movie, man, the first act up until he found Ochi's dagger, that was just wild. That was so fast. Like when Chewie, like leading up to Chewie's death, fake out, whatever. There was so much there that just like, it's just crazy stuff. It's like, okay, fine. I want to know what I want them to do, and what I feel they need to do, what I feel will be the best course of action for them would be, in fact, to release an extended cut of the movie that has that has all that extra stuff put in there, the Oracle stuff, everything. And the reality of it is they're not going to do it, but they should. They really, really, really should. And it's one of those things too, where I kind of feel like this is where Hollywood is going, right? Like the Batman v Superman situation, where they had a half-hour cutout of the theatrical. No one knew about it going in. And it wasn't until 2 months later, after the movie was ravaged by critics, ravaged by fans, failed to cross $1 billion. I think it tapped out at 860 million or something like that. And then they go, oh, by the way, we have another cut with an extra 30 minutes in it. And it totally filled in like 90% of the gaps, right? It just filled everything in. And you're like, wow, yeah, okay, cool. Like, now I get it. What the hell? And it's almost like it felt like it was paid DLC for movies. And I kind of feel like that's going to happen. Like, they're going to do like because movies are dying. Let's be fair, right? Like, movie theaters are dying. There's no way around it. In 10 years, it's going to be a completely different landscape. I mean, it's already, it's a luxury thing now. It's why they're pushing that so hard. But for the average moviegoer, people just can wait till they get home on home video. That's why streaming shows are as popular as they are. And I'm sorry, if you want to disagree with me, you're wrong. I've worked in the industry. I've seen it change. A good half of my life, to an extent, spent working in that industry. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I just wonder if they're going to release these like truncated versions, on home video or in theaters, and then release the full cut on home video to get you to buy, right? To get you to buy it. I don't know. I just, it feels that way. It's always kind of felt that way. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love extended cuts of films. Most of the time they're better. And most of the time I'm like, man, I would have loved to have seen that in theaters. Like the extended cut of Chronicles of Riddick, like almost watching a whole different movie. The original director's cut of Payback with Mel Gibson. Loved it. Loved the original. Loved the theatrical cut too. But I liked what they did with it. Lord of the Rings, for crying out loud. I mean, that's a big thing. The only time that's not something I want is when it's something George Lucas has tinkered with. And I'm right. I'm right. Anyway. I really want to know more about what Pablo here is saying. And so on the Star Wars Leak subreddit, people are going to be posting that information when it pops up. So I'll keep you guys informed. And as always, let me know your thoughts down below. Okay, guys, that actually wraps up the first episode of the show, the revamped. We're going to be doing, this is around the time, by the way. This is around the time when I would answer voicemails. There's going to be a number. I'm going to bring that up probably tomorrow. I'll probably post it on the community tab. You guys can call in, leave voicemails. Try to leave them around 30 seconds or less. Would be fantastic. Very concise. I did it before where when I would do it before and I would have people call in with voicemails. You'd be amazed at how many people would call in with like a 2-3 minute long voicemail. And I appreciate it. I got nothing but love for you, but man, 30 seconds, like ask one question, like leave it at that and be done. And then if you have more questions, like wait till the next day or something and try to call in again and we'll make it work. Because another thing I plan on doing as we move on with this is to do, again, if it can become stable enough to do the morning stuff, that's going to be great, right? To do the live show and everything. And I also want to do, let me just, one thing I have to mention in the first part of this one here, right? I mentioned Campia, and I kind of want to touch back upon that because there might be some confusion with what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to beat Campia. There's no way to beat Campia. He's GOAT. He's in this particular field, he's GOAT. However, my biggest criticism with John Campia is I don't like the pay to play. I don't like the pay to play. I don't like people feeling that they have to then pay out cash in order to talk to a YouTuber, to talk to an influencer or a pundit or whatever. And I understand his time is valuable and that's his game and that's fine. I don't want to do that. So when the time comes, we'll be doing live phone calls. We'll be doing, I have a number of people can call. They know that. We can also do Discord. They can call in through Discord. There's ways to get in and we can make that work. And then also have people do voicemails and then make sure that I want to make it a community. I want to make it as active as I possibly can. Because I feel like that's going to be a great way to just to make you guys feel like you actually have a voice in this and all of this commentary online. That's what I want. While we have fun talking about movies, that's going to be the best part about it. But anyway, I'm going to go to bed because it's late for me, early for you, and I have a doctor's appointment in the morning. So I will post about this in the community tab. Be sure to check it out. If you made it this far, do me a solid. Just type Hollywood in the comment section or in the chat box because this is going to be a premiere, so there's going to be a live chat for like the 5 of you that are going to be here at this point. Anyway, I will talk to you all later. Have yourself a fantastic day. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Have a good one, guys. And peace out. Hey, thank you very much for watching the video. If you want to keep the conversation going, and if you made it this far, you clearly do, come on in and join the Discord. Link is in the video description. Can't wait to see you there. Have yourself a great day, and peace out.